Hockey Inside Out, presented to you by the Gazette.
Welcome to Hockey Inside Out. I'm Gazette sports editor Stu Cowan, joined by former Hab Chris Nilan and Mr. Bowtie himself, Dave Stubbs. I know that's not a clip-on, right, Dave?
Bought this during the London Olympics, Stu, just around the corner from Savile Row, which is where James Bond buys all of his clothes, and some fan told me James Bond isn't real. Next thing he's going to tell me there's no Santa Claus.
Chris Nilan is real. When was the last time you wore a bow tie, Chris?
I've never worn one except for at a wedding with a tuxedo, and for some reason I don't see any comparison to Dave Stubbs and James Bond.
Nor do I, now that you mention it.
Well, you haven't worn a bow tie, but Chris, you did drop the gloves a lot. George Parrot's concussion, did anything like that ever happen to you in your career?
No, I got dinged a couple times, but nothing like that. You know, that was one of those horrific injuries we've kind of come used to seeing here in Montreal with Pacioretty, with Lars Eller. It just... unfortunate incident, you know, he went to throw a punch while he was getting tugged on by Colt North falling, and him going down his chin. It was terrible. I was right there above in the press box, and it was one of those things that just turned your stomach. I'm just glad he's getting better, and it wasn't as bad as I think they first thought.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see him back, Dave? I know you had a one-on-one with Marc Bergevin in Calgary, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think what they want to do, Stu, is they want to be very careful, obviously, with bringing him back before it's time. And there's a concussion protocol, and maybe it's time that we start calling concussions brain injuries, because let's face it, that's really what they are. He went down very heavily, as Chris said, and it was horrifying. My seat's right over center ice, and when I saw him leaving, you could see the eyes that were glassy and just glazed over, exactly the way Lars Eller's looked. So, I think that it's going to take some time, but Parros will be back, and it's the Canadiens certainly will err on the side of caution here. Once you're fully clear of the symptoms that they have on the protocol, then there's a period of time that goes beyond that. So they will not rush him back in any.
You mentioned Lars Eller. I know you're a big fan of Lars Eller, right, Chris? What do you like about him?
He took the hint last year when he got up in the press box and he was sat down at the beginning of the season, and then he progressed from there. And I think his progression is at a good pace. 24-year-old kid. I think we often don't have patience with players. We expect so much out of them. Yeah, he was drafted in a higher position than a lot of guys, but I think we expect results right away. And a lot of times you don't get results from draft picks, maybe the top 5 right off the hop. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the guys, it takes time to develop and adjust to the level of play in this league. And Lars Eller, I think he's on a good pace. He had a great start this year, considering his injury last year. And I'm just happy for him. He's a good skater. He's responsible on his own end, which I think, when we think about the Jacques Martin era, is one real good thing for Lars Eller was learn how to play in his end.
Mm-hmm.
And now,
defensive end of the
and now he's playing both ends of the rink, which is great.
And 2 summers ago, Eller went away, and it was the first time in 3 years that he was able to go away and train healthy, because he had a couple of shoulder surgeries. So, he went away, and the thing about Eller is that he's a very cerebral hockey player. I mean, he's very aware of the mental side of the game, and he hooked up with Sylvain Guimont, who's the Canadiens' sports psychologist. He's a consultant, and Eller has done some tremendous work with him. He's done some very good work with a personal trainer, and he's very careful about his nutrition, supplements,
He's a
and
mature
so on.
guy, too. He left home at 15 to go live by himself, which
exactly.
is
So,
quite remarkable.
He's learned an amazing amount in the last couple of years, and I think this is a guy who can be an impact player for the Canadiens for a long time.
Now, Danny Briere down to the 4th line. Chris, how much does it matter to a player if you're first line, second line, third line, fourth line? If you get demoted to the 4th line, does it really have an impact on
player
it?
like him, I would think he got to have some questions about it, and maybe he could go see the sports psychologist. Who knows? But here's the deal. I think he's better off at the center ice position. I think he has more room to operate, distribute the puck from center ice, and going down the 4th line is a message that, hey, we need more from you. Mm-hmm. I just wish that was a little bit more even-handed as far as, we looked at Lars Eller going to the press box last year.
Yeah.
David Desharnais, who's struggled now for over 50 games, has kind of escaped all that. And hopefully at some point, if he doesn't get going, that he gets the message that Lars got and Danny Briere is getting right now.
Important too, you make that, you use the word message. I think people don't understand that a message is not the same as punishment necessarily. Sometimes you need to get a vision of that game from upstairs. And Eller, as much as difficult as it was for him to sit up there, he's told me that he learned something about the game and he saw some of the things that he could be doing down on the ice. And maybe just a change of scenery, as you mentioned, Chris, would be not a bad thing for Davey at this
even
point.
in Edmonton, Yakupov was made a healthy scratch. There's your first overall pick.
Yeah.
Well, those guys, they have too many guys that tiptoe through the tulips, you know, too many of the same players. And, you know, you're going to see that coming at some point when you get players like that. But, you know, I just think David Desharnais, and again, these guys, it's not that they're not trying, they're not getting it done. They try, but and when you're a smaller guy, and I always say this game is a series of one-on-one battles. And if you're on the losing end most of the time, you're not going to be effective.
If you were playing on a line with Desharnais, what would you tell him, Chris? What would you tell him to do, or how would you try to help him out?
Go out there and get nasty, get going. I'm going to get on the puck. I'm going to separate defenseman from the puck. You come in and get it. I tell him to go out there and use a stick and be mean and get nasty, and I'll protect you.
You don't expect him to be a Brendan Gallagher, right? But I mean, you look at Gallagher. I mean, I keep wondering if his body is the same color as that blue ice that he's in after a game, because I mean, he goes in there and just gets the crap beaten out of him, but he will jump up and he has that goofy grin on his face. Now, whether or not he's going to be able to play like that his entire career, I don't know. But I mean, he certainly is one of those guys who's a pest. He gets under the opponent's skin, and they understand that when Gallagher's out there, they have to spend a bit of time working on him, and that frees up by extension some of the other guys on the ice.
Well, Ryan White's been a healthy scratch. I like him even more now. He shaved his head. He looks like me. You like him too, Chris. What does he need to do to get himself back in the lineup on a regular basis?
I don't know. Maybe invite the coach over for dinner or something. Here's the deal. This kid, he puts out every night. He works. We're talking with Dave, 89% in the face-offs the other night. And he's got to go sit in the stands now instead of David Desharnais.
The numbers game is a cruel thing.
It's wrong. It's wrong. I don't. You know, here's a coach who said there's going to be accountability when you come in here. You play, you're going to deserve to play. And guys, some guys are getting hall passes, and it's not right. It sends the wrong message. And I think down the road, this will come back to haunt this coach.
Maybe David Desharnais needs to wear a bow tie.
You never know. I'll be happy to teach him how to pull it on.
We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Hockey Inside Out. Dave Stubbs just back from a week on the road with the Canadiens, the first part of that Western trip. I know your plane had to be de-iced at Edmonton. Is that true, right?
How crazy is that on the 11th of October? Is that Canada or what, right? You're sitting there on the 11th of October and yet the pilot says we're going to be late because we have to hit the de-icing bay.
What other memorable stories from that trip stick out in your mind?
I think the one that really stands out would be even just 10 minutes that I had with Marc Bergevin. The thing about the Montreal Canadiens and the media presence, Chris, you know this. I mean, the number of media who swarm this team day after day, 24 hours a day when they're home. When you go on the road, there isn't that same media presence. You actually have a little more time with guys. They wander through hotel lobbies. You get a chance to see them. Well, I sat down with Bergevin to talk about George Parros and about this concussion issue and so on, and we got talking in broader terms. He was the first thing I said to him was, how many fights do you think you've had in the NHL? And he thought 15. Well, he had 49. And then Bergevin said,
he only remembers 15.
Yeah, then he said, why didn't I have one more to have 50? But then, of course, once the lightness broke on this, we started talking about the fighting issue and so on. And he said this is a bigger picture that we'll come to eventually. But what he did remember very specifically was having played 5 years in St. Louis with Pavel Demitra. And he said, here was a guy who I thought couldn't defend himself necessarily on the ice, not the way I thought he should be defended. So I would drop my gloves and I would fight on behalf of him. And he said the thing that broke my heart was when the locomotive plane went down in the KHL a couple of years ago. He said Dimitra's life was lost on that plane, and all I could think of was here was the one time that I couldn't actually fight for Pavel Demitra, and now he's dead. And at that point, Marc Bergevin's eyes welled up, and he almost lost it. So I think the Montreal Canadiens fans see these guys as athletes. They see them as hockey players, but behind all of that, first and foremost, I think the Canadiens treat their people as individuals and human beings.
You know why he only had 49 fights? Because his last one was with me.
I was realized that was it, right?
When I played with the Rangers, I fought him in New York. He was going after Tony Granato, and I had to step in.
How did that one
I
turn out?
don't know. It was okay.
Yeah, Hockeyfights.com. It's got to be there, right?
It's somewhere, I'm sure.
You must have respected him as a player.
I love Marc Bergevin as a player. I remember one thing. I heard a lot of positive things about this kid, but there's no question he was a team player. The guys liked him. He was good on the ice. He moved the puck. He was a good defenseman. Not the flashiest guy, but a good, hard-working defenseman. And the number of years he played in this league is a testament
20 years, yeah, more than 1,100 games. I think that's one of the reasons why he is as much of a player's general manager, if you want to call him that, as not, because here was a guy who understands what it is to play.
And he knows how much character means to a team, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
George Parros.
Yeah,
who was your roommate, or who was your favorite roommate when you were playing, Chris?
I had Carbonneau, and Guy was a good roommate for me. He didn't say anything, so it was good. When I needed my rest, I got it. No, we talked now and again. But Cobb was a good roommate. Simple, no drama. It was a lot of fun.
You guys are still buddies, huh? You still keep in touch?
For sure. I talked to him about as much as I did back then.
Which is nothing.
Your other buddy, Patrick, was coaching in Colorado. Did you see him as a future coach when you were playing with him, or what's your take on what he's doing there?
I guess not so much, but once he started coaching in Quebec and coach and general manager, I could see he was passionate about it. He loves the game of hockey.
Banging down the wall to get a Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah, which I think is a good thing. Money well spent by him.
That's an investment, Chris.
Yeah, a lot of people
not a
question his, does he really know the game? He was a goalie, but he studied the game. He understands the game. He knows what the penalty kill is. I heard people talking about, well, is he a good X's and O's guy? Of course he is. Here's a guy that's able to do both. He has the passion. He can lead that way, but he can also go up on the board and show you what to do, where he wants you. Here's what I want. And you earn so much respect that way. He came in with respect because he's Patrick Waugh, but he earned the respect of, hey, this guy knows the game, not just the goaltender position. But
the knee-on-knee bit was the thing that touched him off, right? That's what sent him around the corner. But the thing that I found about that was that if that wasn't premeditated, that certainly sent a message to every single man on that Colorado bench that their coach has their back. And that is an investment. That's not a fine. That's not a $10,000 fine. I'm sure the Avalanche gladly paid that, and now every single guy on the Avalanche understands that, look, this coach is passionate, he's engaged, he's involved, and he wants us to win, and he's going to do anything it takes, no matter what it takes, no matter what he has to do to help this team.
He's got the kid McKinnon going, and I started laughing. McKinnon scored his first goal. J.S. Jaguar got the shutout, and he's living with Jaguar, and he tweeted after the game, he said, Daddy's happy. Mummy's going to be even more happy when he gets home.
There you go.
Speaking of the kids, Michael Bourneval, who's been was a real pleasant surprise at training camp, earned a spot on the team. What's your take on him, Chris, and what you've seen?
He's deserving of that spot. He's got to keep doing the things that got him on this team, that got him a longer look than a lot of guys. He scored some goals in training camp, which was great, but I saw other things. It's easy to point, well, I got 4 goals in training camp. Wow, he deserves a spot. But he did more than that. He was pretty good on face-offs. He was good in the offensive end, and he was good in the defensive end. I watch him. He's a good back checker. He skates well. He's got some pretty good hockey sense. So good on him. Now it's you got to keep doing those things and then improve on them. You can't just sit back and say, "Whoa, I'm here."
Because you're not getting a ton of ice time. Yeah, you're not getting a ton of ice time to prove that.
And you're not playing with the best players either, right? You're playing on the fourth line.
But he has used every single inch of ice out there, and he's an exciting hockey player. When he touches the puck, things are happening. So it's been fun to watch.
A good trade. It's a Ryan O'Byrne trade. Ryan O'Byrne's playing in the KHL, I think, or somewhere
he's gone to Russia
in Europe now. Now, Chris, when you broke into the league, you came in. You made it with the Canadiens as a fighter, turned into a heck of a hockey player. Which coach really helped mold you or helped you become the player you became?
Well, first, Claude Roel, a guy who worked with me on the fundamentals every day, day in and day out. And then Bob Berry kind of gave me that work ethic. I've always had the work ethic, but he really taught me what it was to work in the NHL. And then Jacques Lemaire took it to another level. He really, he showed confidence in me. He worked with me every day. He worked not showing me how to work hard, but work smart. He worked on things that helped me improve my game that I just didn't really know before. He had to show me. He told me some things that made sense to me, and ended up being an effective player for him.
Jean Perron didn't help you out?
What was that?
Jean Perron?
Johnny Perron? Yeah, Johnny got me a Stanley Cup. Thanks, Johnny.
No matter what people say, too, right, about professional hockey players, I think you guys want to be coached. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, when you get a coach in there, you don't think you know it all. I mean, some guys think they know it all more than others, but the fact is that hockey players want to be coached, and if they have a coach who's a good influence on them and who has the confidence of the team, that goes a long way.
You need to get Michel Therrien to wear a bow tie behind the bench with the mustard coat.
It'll never happen. Never happen.
Hope you enjoyed this week's show of Hockey Inside Out. We'll be back with another episode next week.